Alright guys, in this video I will be showing you how to memorize a full deck of shuffled playing cards. Now this is not a trick, this is not a magic trick that makes you seem like, oh, I memorized the whole deck of cards. It is actually memorizing the whole cards. You taking a look at all of them beforehand, putting it down, and then from memory saying which card will come next in the series. The method I'll be teaching you has been used several times, but the method of memorizing each card is new. At least I came up with it. So hopefully this will help you out. It uses both the mnemonic major system and the method of LAKEY. Now that sounds really big and smarty and like, oh man, this is really hard. It's surprisingly not that hard for how impressive this really is. Enough rambling, let's get to it. The first step in learning how to memorize a shuffled deck of playing cards is you need to memorize certain letters that correspond with each number. Now this may seem kind of weird right now, but trust me, it'll make sense. So I'm going to tell you a series of letters that correspond with each number. So for instance, the number 0 corresponds with the letters S and Z. So whenever you think of 0, think of S and Z. The way I memorize that is that the number 0 starts with a Z. So you memorize that. So for 1, 2, and 3, 1 is a T or a D. It can also sometimes be a TH sound, like a th sound, but mainly T and D. The way you memorize that is because there's 1 vertical line down, 2 is N, because there's 2 vertical lines down, 3 is M, because, I don't know, there's like 3 little things down there. I don't know, it's like the next step of 2. That's how I memorize it. 4 is R, and I remember that because 4, when you spell it 4, there's an R at the end. 5 is L. Now that seems kind of weird, and it honestly kind of is. In Roman numerals, L is equal to 50, so you memorize it like that. 6 is sounds that go like, so J, like a J. It could also be a G, but just a soft G. So like giraffe, that counts. Or a Ch, as in chimpanzee. The way you memorize that is, to me, 6 kind of looks like a G a little bit, right? You kind of see that. Now 7 is a K sound, so K. That also works for a hard C. Also a G, so a hard G. If you look this up on Wikipedia, Wikipedia says that in order to memorize 7 and K, that K kind of looks like 2 7s on their side combined? I don't know, that's kind of weird. I don't really find that helpful, but if it works for you. 8 is F or V. And the way you memorize that is that if you use a cursive F, cursive lowercase f, that kind of looks like an 8. Ah, that was a bad one. Right. That kind of looks like an 8. So you can use that. 9 is a B or a P. Oh yeah, this also includes PH. It's mainly just F. Right, this mainly goes off of the sounds and not the letters. 9, B or P. 9 kind of looks like a P, like mirrored. Right, I remember B because like BP, you know, like the people who like spill the oil. Okay, so this is called the major system, and it is used by a lot of people who memorize a lot of big strings of digits. So the people who memorize pi, like a whole bunch of digits of pi, people who memorize, I don't know, like phone numbers really quickly, they use this. This could also be useful to us when memorizing a series of cards. So memorize this. This seems like a lot. And it's honestly not huge. The way I memorized it, so when I was in high school, I had a chart. It looked exactly like this. Before class, I looked at it, quickly memorized it, and then I'd like kind of like quiz myself. Like I'd be like, okay, 0, that's S or Z. Okay, and then I'd go down like that. And in 2 days, I got it down. No problem. I could tell you instantly which one is which. Now, if you're not in school, that's fine. Every single time you enter a certain room, so like your bedroom, the kitchen, just have this there and just look at it. And just look at it and be like, okay. So you could also put like in the bathroom, right? You're gonna go to the bathroom like several times a day. So you just have that list there. You're gonna have time. Look at it. Got it. You could also just like slam it out, just looking at it and getting it. If you do want to use this system to help you memorize digits of pi, Mike Boyd made a great video on how to do that. So I'd recommend checking it out. I'm gonna link it in the description. It's a great video. But for now, just learn this, and after that, you're on the next step. All right, this step. So the reason why we did the previous step is that each card, right, obviously has a value, right? Ace, 1, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to Jack, Queen, King. So you can associate a letter with each of these cards. Jack, Queen, and King already have a letter, right? J, Q, K. That's easy. And now we just assign a letter to each one of these. 10 is like a 0 because it has a 0 on it. Ace is a 1. Easy stuff. There are two things that define a card: their number and their suit. So we already got the number part down. How do we define it by their suit? So since there are 4 suits, I made each of the 4 suits mean something else. Alright, so since there are 2 things that define a card, their suit and their number, we already got all the numbers down. Now it's time to define them by their suit. So I pick these just to fit me. If you can come up with better ones that help you remember it, go for it. But these are mine, so you can take them or leave them. Alright, I'll start with hearts first. So hearts are all people for me. So they're all people I know, either I know personally or they're people I just know, like celebrities. So for instance, the ace of hearts. So ace. So 1 is a D. So people I know. D, that's my dad. So this card is my dad. Next suit we're gonna do is diamonds. So diamonds for me is places, right? Because you kind of need money, right? Because diamonds is kind of like money. You need money to travel to places. So these places, so this could be countries, this could be places like stores, this could be, I don't know, cities. For me, D, for me it's the DMV, right, where you register your car, everything to do with cars. DMV, this card is the DMV. I haven't explained this quite yet, but with all these cards, we're gonna be making a story. So with my story, I didn't want just nouns, right, people's, places, and things. I wanted other things. So spades are all verbs, like actions, all things you can do. So for instance, right, ace, 1, D. What's a verb or an action that starts with D? Dancing. So the ace of spades is dancing. Finally, clubs. I had a hard time figuring out which ones clubs were. So I associated clubs with things to do with the nature or the environment. Because clubs, right? Clubs, that looks like a plant. So ace, 1, starts with a D. It's something to do with nature. This is a dog. Just like that, I have associated something with each of them. Now that you can define each card with a word, what I'd recommend you do is make a chart. Now I'm going to pull out my chart. This is the chart I made when I was learning. So I already defined it. So right, hearts are people, spades are actions or verbs, diamonds are places, clubs, something to do with nature like animals, plants, etc. I'd recommend make a chart like this and go through each one. So you're at ace of hearts. Okay, what is something that starts with D that is a person? Okay, you could put dad, you could put, I don't know, you have a friend named Danny, Don Quixote, put whatever. And go through the list and go through it. And when you think about this, don't think, what should the ace of spades be? Think, what is an action that starts with D? And go through the whole list the same way. I'd recommend the first thing that you think of, write it down. Because when you will be remembering stuff, you'll be, okay, what is an action that starts with R? Roll. Okay, and that's going to be personal to you. So you personalize this and make it so this is for you. So I wouldn't recommend you use any of these because this is for me. So the 2 cards in the deck that don't actually have a suit are the Joker and the Guarantee Joker, right? These guys. Most bicycle decks have what's called a Guarantee Joker, so it's a little smaller. So it's really simple. For me, I just set the Joker as the Joker, like from Batman. And some people like to call this Joker the Baby Joker. So I just put it as a baby. All right, so feel free with this list to make it as personal as you want. Studies have found that if something is more vulgar or kind of more weird, you're more likely to remember it. Feel free to do what I did with the 8 of spades. If you want, it's going to help you remember. So with this chart, do what you did with the other chart and try to memorize it. This will be way easier than you think because you made it up. So it'll be really easy for you to do it. If you notice one of the things that you put doesn't work and something else works, do it. For me, the 7 of diamonds, it used to be Gambia, and I don't know why I did that. So I changed it to GameStop because, yeah. And I recommend have variety. So let's say with all the diamonds, don't put it all as countries. Have some variety so that it's easier for you to remember, because if you're hopping from one country to one country to one country, it's going to be hard to memorize. So have stores, have countries, have whatever. Have a variety, especially with nature. With nature, try to really make it diverse in the type of stuff that you have. All right, now that you have this whole list memorized, or even partially, you don't have to memorize everything. You can still work with the chart. It's time to move on to the cards and start memorizing stuff. So now that you've created all of these images, it's time to put it into a story. Some people also like to have all these images in what's called a memory palace. So let's say you take a familiar place, like your house or a park that you go to or your school or something, and you place these images in certain places. So let's say if you walk through your door and you see a mirror, you can have something on that mirror. And you turn to the left and you see where you put your shoes and you see something else. Some people like to use that. I personally don't. I think that doesn't really have any cause and effect to it like a story would. With a story, I could tell you what comes before and after because they have cause and effect. With that, it's not really as easy. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So I'm going to do this in real time. I'm going to come up with a story randomly with just 10 cards. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so these cards. So I'm going to be using my chart because that's what I use. So this is just an example. So I'm going to be memorizing it like this. All right, so King of Clubs, that's a K, and it's club, which means it's nature. On here, I have it as cloud. I could not think of a word that starts with K. That's also nature. Cloud works best for me, whatever. So for me, I would say, okay, I'm in the clouds, right? Like I'm in heaven or something. 5 of diamonds, that is Lomomar, right? That is a camp that I go to. See, I can mix it up a little bit. So let's say I was admiring the clouds, right? I was laying down admiring the clouds because I was at Lomomar. 6 of spades, that is chase. So chase, like chasing someone. And then all of a sudden, I felt someone chasing me. And they chased me so hard, I went all the way to GameStop. See, 3 diamonds is Mongolia. They chased me all the way to a GameStop, and that GameStop was so far away, it was in Mongolia. 4 clubs, raccoon. Let's see, what else? See, I got a lot of clubs. It's not good when you have a lot of suits. In a while, you have to get creative. This is the sun. This is a bear. Okay. So they chased me all the way to a GameStop. Turns out I was actually in Mongolia. And for some reason in Mongolia, their GameStops have a lot of raccoons in them. Like it was really like infested. Now this is not true at all, but it's a story, right? It's supposed to be memorable. It's not supposed to be correct. So there are raccoons everywhere. Those raccoons are actually aliens and they came from the sun. But luckily their manager had a bear that eats them, and that's how they defended. Let's see, King of Hearts, that's my friend Keon. And after the bear ate all the raccoons, my friend Keon came in and he bought some merchandise that had to do with the Joker. So that was a pretty stupid story, right? It's not correct. It doesn't make sense, but it's memorable. To prove that it's memorable, I'm gonna do it right now. You're gonna have to believe me that I did not write it down somewhere. This is truly from memory. So let's see. So I was in the clouds, or no. So I was laying down, admiring the clouds. Clouds, that's a K, so that's a king. Has to do with nature. That's King of Clubs. And I was at Lomomar. That's a L, that's a place. 5 of diamonds. until I got chased. So that's 6 of spades. I got chased all the way to a GameStop, which is 7 of diamonds. And the GameStop was in Mongolia, 3 of diamonds. And that Mongolian GameStop had a lot of raccoons in them. That starts with an R, has to do with nature. 4 of clubs. And those raccoons actually came from the sun because they're aliens. So the sun starts with an S. So that's a 0, which is a 10. Has to do with nature. So it's a club, 10 of clubs. Let me think. Okay, and then the bear ate it. The bear ate all the raccoons. So the bear, so that's B, which is 9. It's nature, so it's club. And afterwards, my friend Keon came in, which is, so his name starts with a K, and it's a person, so it's a heart. And afterwards, he bought merchandise that had to do with the Joker, which is the Joker. And there you go. So, hopefully that made sense to you. That can seem like a lot of nonsense and like really stupid. You're not trying to be not stupid. You're just trying to be memorable. So if you can come up with stories that make sense to you, that's great. That's the point. So I'd recommend when you're first starting, first memorize 10 cards. Right? Do that a couple times. Have the chart on you. It's okay to use the chart. It took me a good maybe 4 tries with the chart until I could memorize the whole deck without it. So use the chart, pick 10 cards. After you do 10 cards, try 20, then 30, then 40, then the whole deck. Just slowly add more and more cards that you have to memorize until you use the whole deck, and after that, you're good. So that's the method. A few tips of memorizing stuff. Try to have it so each card leads into another. So let's say if I were to use this example, right? If I just have 3 cards, it's really just easy to imagine oh, I'm in the clouds, and then now I'm at Lomar, and then I'm being chased, right? Try to have them be linked in some way. So I'm admiring the clouds because I'm in Lomar, and while I was laying down, I got chased, and that startled me. So try to have it have cause and effect, right? So I've been chased to GameStop, right? I could tell you what comes before GameStop because I knew I was chased there. So try to have a cause and effect thing that helps you memorize it. So aside from that, I'd recommend when you're making this chart right here, when you're making this chart, so I told you some letters have 2 things to them. So let's say 6 has both J and CH, or the ch sound. Try to just pick one, because if you had both J and ch in there, you're gonna be thinking what word starts with J or CH that have to do with people, right? That's twice as many things when you could just narrow it down to 1. And speaking of that, also don't have 6 be J because Jack is J. Also don't have 7 be K because King is K. So it should be hard G. But let's say you could have 9 be B or P. It doesn't really matter. Same with 8. You could have it be F or V. Pick whichever one suits you best, but just try to stick to 1. It'll help you memorize. All right, so that's basically it. What I cannot stress enough is that, again, don't try to make it make sense. Just try to make it memorable. That's the important part. It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be smart. Just make it memorable. All right, guys, that's the video. If this helped you, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash that bell. Before starting, this may seem really hard, but if you just practice little by little, you'll get it no problem. I think either after 1 week or 2 weeks, I was able to memorize the whole deck, including jokers, with no chart. So you guys can absolutely do this. Just practice making the connections, practice making the stories, and doing all that. All right, thanks for watching, everyone.